Hello there, Dylan Rabbit GPS here. What I want to do today is make a recording of the intro to the Rabbit GPS mobile app group webinar that we typically do. So right now, the screen that I'm showing you over here is the default landing page, the home screen of the Rabbit GPS app. This is where you'll be taken if you're opening the Rabbit GPS app from a dead close. And at the very top of the screen, the first thing, out of all of the stuff that we covered today, the home screen is where we're going to spend the absolute least amount of time because it's relatively self-explanatory, but there are a few things that are worth knowing about. At the very top, the section that I'm toggling back and forth here, you can see the quick access bar, which will show icons that will allow you to navigate to specific portions of the Rabbit GPS app quickly and easily from the home page. You might see a lot more icons up at the top of my screen that you see on your end. This is just because I've been a member of Rabbit GPS for a long time. I participated in events. I'm a member of organizations. As you start to participate in those things, those icons will start to populate over the top of your screen and allow you to quickly access them. Just underneath that, you'll see that I have the last 30 days of my stats listed. I promise I actually ride my bike. This is from a test account right now, so you don't see a ton of activity. But basically, if you're someone who likes to track stats, you'll always see the last 30 days of your stats listed here. If you tap where it says All Stats on the right-hand side, that'll allow you to drill down into a specific time frame to view your activity recordings. So it could be like last week, year. You could even do career totals if that's something that you're interested in doing. Down below, you're going to see things that I've recently been up to. These are either routes that I've created or activities that I've recorded. You'll also notice that just to the left of where it says your activity, there's a following tab. And if I tap that, I can see anybody who I'm following in Rabbit GPS, what they're up to and what they've been doing. That's a really quick overview of the home screen. Again, not a ton to cover here. What I'd like to do now is take us to the Explore feature. And the Explore feature is what you'll use to locate existing routes in Rabbit GPS. So you're going to tap where it says Explore. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a little magnifying glass icon. And that takes you into the Explore screen. I'll quickly say that Rabbit GPS has one of the largest libraries in the world of existing bicycle routes, and this is the tool that you'll use to search for existing routes that meet the specific criteria that you're looking for. When we're looking at the screen here, a couple of things to show before we start talking about filtering and how we limit our search results. You'll see a pulsating blue dot, which is my current location in relation to everything else we're seeing in the middle of the screen. We'll see a bunch of squiggly red route lines, and you'll also see a bunch of these green start icons. Now, just in the middle here where you see where it says Portland, you'll notice that one of my start icons has the number 4 in there. Basically, if there are a variety of different routes that start really, really close to one another, we'll cluster those start points together to keep your map from looking too busy. As you start to zoom in, you will see those start points splinter out into locations where they actually exist. So right now, what we're showing you by default here are just the most popular routes that run through the area. And if you have a specific plan for the riding they're going to do this weekend, for example, you probably have some specific search criteria in mind, which is where our filtering options come in. If you look towards the top of the screen here, you'll see these little white boxes that are moving back and forth, and those are the search filters. So I'm going to take you through sort of a mock search so you can see how this tool works. The first thing I'm going to do is tap where it says length. That opens up this little slider bar at the bottom of my screen, which allows me to set the low end and high end of my search bracket. So I'm interested in looking for a route that's between 20 and 40 miles in length. I'll move the low end of my slider to 20 and the high end of my slider to 40. Okay, that sets my search bracket. Now I'm going to tap where it says save. And as I press that, you can see that Explorer is now refetching routes that meet the search criteria that I'm plugging in. The next one is elevation, and that specifically refers to elevation gain. If I'm doing a 20 to 40 mile route in Portland, Oregon, I'd expect to be climbing at least 1,000 feet, and at most, we'll say 3,700 feet. That's if I'm being mean to myself and I'm on a really tough day. I'll hit save, and now that filter is applied. Next is surfaces, and this refers to the specific surface type breakdown of the routes that we're looking at. If I was taking out my road bike, which has skinny tires and doesn't like off-road stuff, I'd probably choose paved and mostly unpaved because that will give me a lot of routes to look at, and vast majority of which will be paved, which will be perfect for my road bike. If I was taking out my gravel bike, which has slightly beefier tires and can handle more varied terrain, I'd select mostly paved, mixed surfaces, or mostly unpaved. If I was taking out my bikepacking bike or even my mountain bike, which can handle pretty much everything you throw at it, I'm going to be doing mostly paved and unpaved. But for the purposes of this little demo here, I'll select those middle three and tap Save. All right, and then the last filter we have is route type. And this refers to the actual structure of the routes that we're looking for. When I search for routes, I'm pretty much always going to go for loop routes. I like that they can start and end in the exact same place. And a loop ensures that you're not riding over the same roads too many times. It keeps things nice and fresh. Out and back would be point A to point B, all the way back to point A, likely using the same roads out as back in. And then you have point to point, which is just point A to point B. If you did that, you'd probably have to plan on getting a ride from somebody or taking public transit, that sort of thing. But I'll choose loop and save. So now everything that we're seeing on the screen is matching the search criteria that we plugged in here. And right now we're just seeing a whole bunch of route lines overlaid on top of one another, which isn't super helpful if you have a specific idea in mind for the type of routing that you want to do. I like to see one route at a time. And how you do that is towards the bottom of the screen, very, very bottom, there's this little horizontal gray bar. And if you start to pull that up from the bottom, this is going to show you just one route at a time. And then if you swipe to the left, you're going to see the next consecutive route shown on the screen, which I think is a much easier way to get a better sense of the routes that you're looking at and see if one looks good to you. This is a good route to look at as an example. You'll notice that it's called Happy Leif Erikson Day. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the elevation profile, or rather, there's a couple of bits of information that it's telling us in this little results card. This route is 27.2 miles in length. It's 1,600 feet of elevation gain, and it's a mixed surface route. The elevation profile itself goes from this solid red color to this striped white and red color. And that's an indication visually of the surface type breakdown. Solid red means that it is paved. Segmented white and red means that it is unpaved, which again, give me more context and makes things a little bit easier for me to discern if I want to do this route or not. Let's say this route looks really cool. I'm going to tap to see it in full view. And what I really want to do right now is save this route for later. I said I was going to do it this weekend. It's not the weekend right now. I still have some time in between here and there. How do I save it for later? What I'm going to do is tap where it says save at the bottom of the screen. And then I'm going to tap where it says save to pinned. That pins the route. You get this little pop-up that says, hey, you can now find this in the pin section of your route library. All you need to know is when you pin a route, this is typically something you'll do for a route someone else has created. If you find a route that someone else made and you like it and you want to save it for later, you'll pin that route, which will add it to the pin tab of your mobile route library, which I'll show you how to get to relatively soon. All right, so what we're going to do now is hit the back button in the upper left-hand corner to return to our Explorer screen. Right now, I'm still seeing just one route at a time, but let's say I want to see the full screen again. You'll just drag that little gray bar down again, and now you have a full screen view. Let's say I'm actually not interested in looking in the Portland, Oregon area, and I instead want to look in Hood River. One way to do that is by panning your map over to Hood River. You'll see this little search this area box at the bottom of the screen, and if you tap that, you're now taking all of those search filters we turned on earlier and applying it to the Hood River area. Let's say that I don't want to look in Hood River and I instead want to look in Seattle, Washington. I head to the search bar at the very, very top of the screen, tap in there, and I'm going to type in Seattle, Washington. So I'll select that. Now the map pans over to the Seattle, Washington area and again applies all of those same search filters that we turned on earlier. So that's a real quick overview on how the Explorer feature works, but it is a really great way to find existing routes that really match the specific search criteria that you have in mind. What I'm going to do now is take us into our route library so we can get a better sense of how things are stored and where you can access routes or rides once they've been saved or recorded. So I'm going to tap where it says library at the sort of in the bottom right of my screen. And that takes me into my route library. You're going to notice that there's a couple of different things shown on the screen here. So at the very, very top, you'll see that there are 3 different tabs listed. You have your activities, you have your routes, and then you have collections. Let's talk about each one of these. So activities are just a record of your activity. Every time you head out and navigate a route or simply record your rides and finish and save them, they'll appear under your activities tab so you can reference them later on. One thing to mention about rides is rides are just activities are just a record of what you did and where you went. They do not have a cue sheet and therefore are not navigable. Again, just a record of your activity. Routes, on the other hand, you can think of as a plan for an activity. Routes are going to have a cue sheet associated with them and therefore can be used for turn-by-turn voice directions. You can actually navigate these guys. So I'll show you how to do this in just a little bit, but if you have a ride recording or an activity recording that you like and you want to turn it into a route, there is a way for you to make that happen. I'll show you how to do that shortly. And then the next tab is your Collections tab. And if you tap Collections, you'll see a couple of different things in here, one of which is Pinned. And if I tap that Pinned collection, I can see Happy Leif Erikson Day at the very, very top of this pinned list. So when you pin a route that someone else has made to save it for later, all you need to do is head to your route library, tap Collections, tap Pinned, and you'll see that route listed up at the very, very top of your screen, so you can find it without having to do that search all over again from scratch. And then the last option in here that I wanted to talk about is offline. So actually, let me back this up. And let's say that I really like this Happy Leif Erikson Day route, and I want to make sure that I have access to it, even if I do not have access to cell reception or Wi-Fi connection. While viewing the route, you tap the Save button at the bottom of the screen, and you're going to tap where it says Download for Offline. Okay, I tap that, get a little prompt saying it's downloading. Great. I'm going to hit the back button in the upper left, and now I'm going to head to my Offline tab here. And as you can see, that Happy Leif Erikson Day route is currently downloading to my phone for offline use. Once that progress bar disappears, anything that you see in the Offline tab has been successfully downloaded for offline use, which means that you can navigate it even if you don't have access to cell reception or Wi-Fi. One quick thing to say about offline maps is, in addition to them being great and useful because you can navigate them without cell reception, another cool benefit of this is if you've downloaded your route for offline use, you can put your phone in airplane mode and still access turn-by-turn voice navigation for the routes, see where you are in real time. But airplane mode sort of puts up a wall between your phone and attempts to connect to cell network or Wi-Fi connection, which is going to save a ton of battery for yourself. My little anecdote here, I like to do a lot of like bike packing trips, stuff where I put all my gear on my bikes and head into the wood for a couple days at a time. If I download a route for offline use, navigate it with my phone in airplane mode, I can usually get between 8 and 10 hours of navigation on a single battery charge. So it does make quite a bit of difference in terms of how much juice gets used by your battery as you're navigating. Okay, let me hit the back button. And earlier I mentioned, hey, rides are not navigable, just a record of what you did and where you went. But let's say I had a really fun ride and I want to turn it into a route. I'll use this chill ride that I have here. While viewing it, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a white circle with 3 horizontal dots. If I tap that, one of the options here is Navigate, and if I tap Navigate, this message pops up. It says, hey, this does not have turn-by-turn directions. Do you want to add some? If so, use the Auto Trace tool. I have this nice little Auto Trace button, so I'm going to tap that. What happens now is that recording is loaded into my route planner. And what's happening right now is the mobile route planner is tracing the ride recording, adding cue sheet to it as it goes, therefore turning this recording or activity into a route that can be navigated. The process is pretty quick and easy. It's already done here. I'm going to tap I understand. Okay, great. And now I'm going to tap done, save, and I'm going to call this chill route version and save. So once I hit save, that ride is now turned into a route that can be navigated later on with turn-by-turn voice directions whenever I feel like going out. So again, if you have a really cool activity that you want to turn into a route, you're not out of luck, just follow those steps and you'll be good to go. All right. So the next thing I want to do is talk about how navigation actually works in the Ride with GPS app. So I have a couple of different ways in which I'll show this to you, but the one I'm going to do right now is this route that I have here called Home to Rocky. I'm at my home right now, and while I can't actually show you what this looks like while you're riding, this will give us a pretty good idea. So this is what it's going to look like when you are at the start of an existing route and you're ready to start riding. So I'm going to tap where it says Home to Rocky. I'm going to tap where it says Navigate in the lower left-hand corner. Before I actually do that, you'll notice that on the screen, you'll see the route line that I'm going to follow. The green icon is where it starts. The red icon is where it ends. The red route line is what I'm going to be following. And that little blue dot down there is my current location in relation to the route that we're seeing. So I'm going to tap Navigate. All right. So some stuff is starting to happen here. If we look at the very top of my screen, you can see the first turn-by-turn direction being displayed. It says 0.5 miles, turn right onto Southeast Glenwood Street. If I had my audio turned on, you would hear that cue being verbally announced as well. It would actually say, turn right onto Southeast Glenwood Street. If I was riding along right now, you would see my little blue dot moving along this blue route line as well. Behind me, a red line would be forming, showing me where I've been. Ahead of me will remain blue, so I'll always be able to see what I've covered versus what I haven't covered. So blue ahead of you, red behind you. And again, you'd see that little blue dot moving along as well. As you reach your cues, once I make that right turn onto Southeast Glenwood Street, the next consecutive cue is going to populate over the top of my screen and be verbally announced to me as I'm actually riding along. So a couple of little nuances here. Just underneath that first cue announcement at the very top of the screen, you'll see this little gray banner that says Auto Pause, Move to Record. So by default, there's a feature called Auto Pause enabled in the Ride with GPS app. And basically what that means is as you're riding along, if at any point you stop riding, maybe it's to take a break or drink some water, that sort of thing, our app is going to automatically pause the recording to keep things nice and accurate for you. And then once you get on the bike and start moving again, the recording will automatically unpause itself. So you don't need to worry about manually pausing your recordings or restarting them. Ride with GPS will take care of all of that for you. By default, your map is always going to be oriented with north at the top of the screen, regardless of your direction and heading. A lot of people like this. I'm one of those people. For whatever reason, my brain just likes it that way. But a lot of people want the map to orient in the direction of travel. If that's you, you're not out of luck. In the lower left-hand corner of my map, there's a little compass icon with north pointing upward. If I tap that icon, it turns black, and you can start to see my phone screen moving and turning a little bit. This enables what we call auto rotate, and now your map rather, will orient in the direction of travel as you're actually moving along. Quick thing to note about this is we're using your phone's GPS to suss out your location. We're not using a magnetic compass. So you'll have to actually start moving along a little bit in order for the map to quickly orient in the direction of travel. It does do a pretty good job of this while you're standing still, but the best way to make it do its thing is by getting on the bike and moving a little bit first. And if you don't like that, just tap that compass icon once more. That goes away, and now north will be at the top of the screen at all times. And then in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that there is a little white circle with stacked squares in it. And if you tap that, that shows you a whole bunch of different things in your map here. These are the available map types and overlays that you can choose from in the Ride with GPS app. So I'll take you through a few of these. Directional arrows will provide little directional chevrons along the route line, which will give you a sense of the directionality at first glance. I would recommend having those turned on. It's easy enough to sort of tell which direction you need to go if you have a point-to-point route. But if you're working with a loop route, it's a little bit tougher, and those directional arrows make a big bit of difference. Distance markers will show these little distance markers periodically on your route line to let you know about how far in you go. Point of interest will allow you to see point of interest icons that are added to the map. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Cues, I would probably recommend leaving cues turned off. That will show you actually a little cue icon. Each place that you have a cue showing you the direction of it. Map scale is a little map scale to view. And then surfaces allows you to see the surface type breakdown of the routes that you're looking at. I'd recommend leaving that on too. Just above that, you'll see all of the different types of map styles we offer. It's always going to default to the generic Ride with GPS cycle map style, and that's my personal favorite. But there's a lot that you can choose from. A few that I'll call out here is satellite. That'll show you satellite imagery as you actually go through and record or navigate. OSM Cycle is a nice one. That'll show you networks of cycling safe streets. And Esri Topo, I think, is one of my personal favorites. That just shows you this very nice, crisp, clean map type to choose from. Then you'll notice that we have some advanced map layers for you to choose from. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, but a few that I think are useful are the highlights layer. The highlights layer are going to show you community added points of interest, which are really nice to see as you're recording a ride or navigating around in case you want to stop by and check out any of those points of interest. If you're a mountain biker, we show MTB trail ratings. We also show unpaved cycling roads by default if you turn that on. And we also have air quality, snow depth, cell coverage, those types of overlays. And at the very top of the screen, you're going to see various heat map overlays. Let me turn one on, the global heat map, for a moment. I'll select last 7 days. When I return to my map with global heat maps turned on, you can see all these thick purple lines on my map. The idea of the heat map is it's trying to show you visually where people ride their bikes most frequently. The more frequent bicycle traffic a specific road gets, the deeper and darker the color of purple appears over that road. If I zoom in closely, you can sort of see what that contrast looks like. Let's see, Southeast Salmon Street, sort of in the middle of my screen, has a deep, dark heat map signature, which tells me it gets a lot of bicycle traffic. But some of these other streets have some purple on there, but not a ton. So comparatively, they get less traffic. This is a really nice feature for route planning. But honestly, it's really nice if you need to sort of change your route up on the fly. Sometimes you can follow someone's heat map signature and find a really cool route that you didn't know existed otherwise. But let me turn that off for now. And then at the bottom of my screen, you'll notice that there's a bunch of metrics being displayed. It says something like distance, speed, duration, distance left, ETA. These are all of your ride metrics, and they're entirely customizable, meaning you can sub in a different metric for any of the metrics shown on the screen. Let's say duration, the one that's shown in the upper right-hand corner of my metric screen, isn't something I care about. I don't want to see it. I'd rather see something else. If I take my finger and long press on where it says duration, so I'm going to tap and hold down, that pulls up a list of all of the available metrics that you can choose from in the Ride with GPS app. So let's say duration I don't care about. Moving time is something I care a lot more about. If I tap moving time, you will now see moving time displayed instead of where duration was. Another cool metric down below here is ETA, as estimated time of arrival. And what basically that is based on your past ride history, Ride with GPS is averaging that information together and saying, hey, based on your past rides, this is about how long we think it's going to take you to finish this route. This number also adjusts dynamically in the moment, though. So let's say most of your rides are done recording on a carbon road bike, which is super fast. You're probably going to be moving faster on that bike if, let's say, you took out your bikepacking bike, full of gear, loaded down, super heavy. This feature adjusts dynamically based on your current fitness and direction and level and heading. So you'll get a much more accurate estimation of how long it's going to take you to do this as you actually start riding along. And then at the very bottom, you'll see just to the left of that orange pause button in the middle, there's a little elevation option. And if you tap elevation, you'll see the elevation profile for your route. It's a little hard to see here, but in the lower left-hand corner, the very, very left-hand corner of the elevation profile, you can just barely see my little blue dot. If I expand the elevation profile while hitting the up arrow in the upper right-hand corner of it, it gets a little bit bigger. If I was riding along in real time, you would see my little blue dot moving along the elevation profile as well. And if you tap once more, that enables the elevation scrubber, which allows you to get more information on a particular spot along your route. So right now, where I've moved my cursor or where I moved my scrubber to, it's at 7.7 miles into my route. It's at an elevation of 320 feet at a grade of 6.5%. And it's saying that it's going to take me about 34 minutes and 58 seconds to get to that specific spot along my route. This is a really useful feature to have if you've been riding and you want to sort of see how much more riding you have to do. It can also be a little tough when you've been riding all day long and turn this on only to see that you still have a ton of climbing left. So know that it's there, but use it sparingly so you're not discouraged. Hit that back button down there. I'm back to my metric screen. Okay, a couple more things to call out here. In the upper right-hand corner of the map, there's a white circle with segmented dashed lines in there. And if you tap that, you'll see a couple of on-the-fly routing options. If you hit Get Directions, that allows you to plug in an address or place name of a spot that you'd like to navigate to, and our app will generate a route with turn-by-turn directions using the safest roads for cycling between your current location and the point that you plug in. Let's say this happens often in the Pacific Northwest, halfway through the route that you're doing, it starts dumping rain, and you just want to get back to the start, get in your car, head home. If you hit route back to start, our app will generate a route with turn-by-turn directions that takes you from your current location back to the designated start point of the route. Route to home, that'll create a route that'll give you turn-by-turn directions from your current location back to your home location. And clear route removes this original route from your screen and allows you to just record your ride as you'd like as you want to move along there. I should also mention that when you navigate a route, you are simultaneously recording your activity. So at the end of each session of routing, you're going to want to finish and save your recordings. To do this, tap and hold down that orange pause button at the bottom middle of the screen. Then you're going to tap where it says Finish Ride. That'll take you to the ride save form. If I had actually been riding along, you would see a map showing a red line where I went. So I'd have a full route map associated with this. I can give it a name if I want to. If you don't give it a name, we'll just assign the date that the ride was done. You can do description, you can do activity type, you can select visibility, public, private, friends only. One cool feature about this is if you've taken photos with your phone during a recording, hit that plus button and you can add those photos to the recording. The photos will then be geotagged on your ride map in the specific location that they were actually taken. The little story that I share on this is I was doing a mountain bike ride not too long ago and ran into a bunch of rattlesnakes on the trail. I took a picture of each rattlesnake I saw, saved it to my recording, and then sent that recording out to other people I know who ride out there so they could get a little heads up of the rattlesnakes on the trail and could avoid them if they need to. From here, I can hit that save button, and this will save the recording to my activities tab of my library so I can access it later on. Or I could scroll down a little bit further to reveal the delete option, which I'll tap, and that'll just get rid of the recording, won't save it to your library. Okay, next thing I want to do is show you what happens if you start navigation for a planned route, but you are not at the designated start point. So I'm going to do the not home to Rocky route. I'll tap this route, and you can see my current location, that blue dot, in relation to the route line. I'm nowhere near this route at this time, but I'm going to tap navigate, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so a couple of things on the screen. If you look at the very top of the screen, you'll see what an off-course alert looks like. If during your navigation session you head off course, whether it's on purpose or on accident, a couple of things will happen. You're going to hear a audible off-course alert. I promise you'll know it when you hear it. There's no other sound it can be confused with. Excuse me. But you'll also see an off-course alert listed on your screen. It says off course up top. Just underneath there, it says tap to route back to course. If I tap that, our app is going to give us turn-by-turn directions back to the nearest point of our route. It might have us backtrack a little bit. The idea is we want to get you from where you are to your planned route as quickly and as safely as possible. Let's say you went off course on purpose and you don't want our app yelling at you. You just want to sort of navigate right along until you feel like hopping back onto your planned route. If you hit the X in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, that'll clear out the off-course alert, stop the phone from beeping at you, and you can take your time making it to your planned route whenever you'd like. Down below, you'll see a couple of other options. Route to start. If I tap route to start, our app will create a route with turn-by-turn directions from my current location to the designated start point of the route that I loaded in for navigation. Route to nearest point will create a route that will take us from where we are right now to the nearest point of the existing route. Start off course allows you to just record your activity until you get to your original route, pop on there, and then navigation prompts will pick up from that point forward. One really important thing to know about how navigation works is in order for navigation to function, all you need is to follow the route in the direction it was planned. It doesn't matter if you're not at the designated start point, as long as you are following the route in the direction it was planned, navigation will pick up from the current location you are on that route on forward, which is nice. So just for fun here, I'm going to tap where it says route to nearest point. All right, there you go. This light blue line is the route with turn-by-turn directions that takes me to the nearest point of my existing route. And my existing route is shown in that faint gray color. Once I finish the route up until that point and start popping on that original route, follow it in the direction it was planned, navigation prompts for the original one will pick up from the point that I join it on forward. One last thing I wanted to show you about navigation, or actually two more things. One is our QuickNav feature. So let's say halfway through my ride, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to navigate to the top of Mount Tabor. So I'll zoom in on Mount Tabor, and I'm going to take my finger and long press on the top of Mount Tabor. When I do that, our app generates a route with turn-by-turn directions using the safest roads for cycling from my current location to the top of Mount Tabor. If I tap Update Navigation, okay, that is now the route that I'm navigating instead of the one that I originally loaded in here. One last cool feature about navigation, or ride recording for that matter, that I wanted to let y'all know about is our live logging feature. Live logging allows you to broadcast your location with others in real time so people can follow along and see what you're doing while you're actually doing it. To do this, in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, tap the Tools icon, and then tap where it says Share, and then tap Enable Live Logging. This means that we are currently broadcasting our location, which is great. From here, I will tap where it says Share at the bottom of the screen. Once I tap Share, that'll open up my phone contacts and allow me to text this live log link or even email it out to anybody that I want. Once the recipient gets that link, they tap it, they'll be able to follow my location in real time. They do not need the Ride with GPS app. They do not need a paid subscription in order to see your live log link and follow along. One quick thing to mention here, let me disable this real fast just by tapping Disable Live Log. Live logging is dependent on cell data, so you need to have cell data in order for this to work. If we lose cell data during a live log session, we'll temporarily stop broadcasting your location until you enter cell data connection again, then we'll pick up from that point forward. The other thing is live logging uses a good bit more battery. So if you're battery conscious, I would not recommend live logging, or at least just be aware that it's going to eat up your battery a little bit faster than if you haven't. Okay, let me end this recording here by tapping and holding down that orange pause button. Finish ride and delete. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is take us into our mobile route planner and talk a little bit about how route planning works in the mobile app. There's two ways to get here. One is from the home screen and tapping that where it says route planner at the very, very top of the screen, or you can tap more, route planner. All right, so I've opened up my route planner. As you can see here, we're seeing my current location with that little blue dot. I have a nice blank map, and this is the template for creating routes of our own. Right now, I have the highlights layer turned on, which is showing us all these different points of interest along the map. I'm going to turn this off temporarily while we're planning, just so we can see the map a bit clearer. Let me turn off highlights. And done. Okay, perfect. So, excuse me. There's two main ways you can go about creating your route, or two main methods rather, and they're interchangeable with one another. You can always hop back and forth. One method I would sort of call tap as you go. This allows you to tap where you want the route to start, tap along the roads that you want to use, and each time you tap, we're going to connect the taps with a route line and a list of turn-by-turn directions. If you go back and subsequently make any changes or edits to your route line, those edits will be reflected in the cue sheet accordingly. The other method is what I would call the jump to method of route planning. This is where you say, hey, route planner, I want to start here, I want to end here, make the route for me. I'll cover the nuances of how both of these work. So if I'm going to tap as I go, first thing I need to do is choose where my route's going to start. I'm going to zoom in nice and close, tap where I want the route to begin. That first tap adds my start icon. Then from here, I'm going to tap along the roads that I want to use. And again, each time I tap, route line's created for me. List of turn-by-turn directions automatically generated as I plan, which is great. One thing that I want to make sure, if there's like one route planning tip you take away from this, it's going to be this part right here. As you're tapping, notice how I'm being very careful and intentional to not tap in the middle of intersections. Instead, I'm tapping just past intersections in the desired direction of travel. The reason you don't want to tap in the middle of an intersection is because when you do that, the route planner has a hard time of telling which direction you plan on going, and every once in a while that can result in either an incorrect or missing cue. But if you tap just past intersections in the desired direction of travel, the route planner is going to work exactly the way that you want it to. Your route line will be nice and clean, and your cue sheet will be nice and accurate as you go through here. The other thing that I want to mention is if you are tapping as you go to create your route line, be aware of your zoom levels. I'm zoomed in pretty close, but not super close The reason I say this is if you're zoomed out this far and you're tapping on the map, it's very easy to tap on a side street instead of the road that you actually want to use. Zooming in closer just ensures that your taps are nice and accurate and do exactly what you want. In the lower right-hand corner of my screen here, you'll notice a curved back arrow and a curved forward arrow as your undo and redo buttons. You're going to make mistakes while you plan. The undo button, the curved back arrow, will undo your most recent edit and take you one edit back. Redo will redo your most recent edit. This is a really useful feature to know about because I don't want you to have to rebuild your routes from scratch every time you make a tiny mistake. So just know that you can hit that undo button and that'll take you back one edit. Okay, almost done creating my route here. And awesome. So I've tapped, I've created my route that starts from my home, takes me to the top of Rocky Butte, using the roads that are safest for cycling. Great, I love it. So that's sort of a recap of method number one. Tap where you want the route to go, and we'll create a route line for you as you tap. Let me clear my map. In the upper right-hand corner, just to the right of the search box, I'll hit that icon, hit clear map. And now I'll go through the second method, which is where you sort of, the jump to method, where you say, hey, route planner, I want to start here, I want to end here, make the route for me. So I don't have any route. At the search bar at the top of the screen, I'm going to tap in there. And I'm going to select my home location. You'll also see current location as an option. And in the search bar, you can actually plug in an address. We'll find that for you. You can even put in a place name. If there's like a coffee shop nearby that you want to route to or start your route from, plug that in and chances are we'll find it for you. But again, for me, I'm going to choose home. Route Planner sticks a little marker over my home location and gives me the option to start route here, which I'll tap. Okay, that adds my little start icon. Now I'm going to head back to the search option at the top of the screen, and I'm going to plug in my desired destination, which will be Rocky Butte Natural Area. Okay. So once I select that, the Route Planner sticks a little marker over the top of Rocky Butte and gives me the option to route to here, which I'll tap. And then boom, the Route Planner creates a route for me, connecting those 2 points using the roads that are safest for cycling. Pretty quick, pretty easy. Now let's say after the top of Rocky Butte, I want to continue on some specific roads. All right, I'm just going to tap along the roads that I want to use. And again, each time I tap, route line's created for me, looking good. Now let's say that I want to jump over to Vancouver, Washington. I'll head to the search box, type in Vancouver, Washington, route to here, and there you go. This is just a little example to show you that you can always hop back and forth based on how much time you have, how much detail you wanted to include in this route, and how much time you have to actually plan the route itself. If I like this route, I'd hit where it says done in the lower right-hand corner, which will allow me to save it. But before I do that, I want to show you how to edit your existing route line. So let's say this route looks pretty cool, except I really want to head to Mount Tabor right about in the middle there. So what you'll do is zoom in kind of close, and roughly where you plan on making this edit, tap the route line. You'll have a couple of different menu options, one of which includes a move option at the very bottom. I'll tap move. That adds this little blue pin to my route line. And if I pan the map, so that blue pin rests on an alternate street or road that I want to use. Okay, in gray, the route line where it's potentially changing will sort of give you a little preview. I'm going to tap confirm. And now my route changes accordingly. Instead of doing the route as it was originally planned, I'm now heading to Mount Tabor and then continuing on to my original destination, which is pretty nice. You have a couple of other quick routing options that I wanted to show you. Just to the right of the search bar at the top of the screen, you'll see that white circle with the segmented dashed lines in there. And if you tap that, these are going to show you all of your editing options. Change start will allow you to change the start of a point-to-point route. Change end will allow you to change the end of a point-to-point route. Out and back. So right now this route is point A to point B. If I wanted to make it all the way back to point A, so point A to point B, all the way back to point A, I would hit that out and back button and that would sort of create a round trip for me using the same roads out as back in. Reverse route is going to change the direction of your route. Remember how I said earlier that in order for the navigation to work, you need to follow the route in the direction it was planned? Let's say you have a loop route that runs clockwise, except you want to navigate it counterclockwise. If you open that route up in your route planner, hit reverse route, that will change the direction of the route. We'll rebuild it from scratch. It'll do its best to retain the structure of the original route. That way you can navigate it in the opposite direction from how it was planned. Add custom POI. Let's run through this. I'm going to tap Add Custom POI. And what this feature does is it allows you to call out different features on the map with these little icons to help give the rider a heads up that it's going to be on the map so they can see it and decide whether they want to go to it or not. Let's say I want to call out a coffee shop. I'll tap the coffee icon, and I'm going to type in coffee, stop. And then I'm going to tap where it says Add Custom POI. That adds this point of interest icon to the map. And then I can start to pan this around so it rests exactly where I want it to be added. That looks great. Now I'm going to tap where it says Set Location. That icon now appears on the map. If I zoom out, it stays there. During navigation in the Ride with GPS app, this is pretty much how that icon is going to appear. And if I want to see what information was added to it, I'll just tap the point of interest icon, and that'll show me a little dialog box with any description information that's been added. It's a really nice way to curate your route a little bit more and make sure that something cool isn't missed by the person who's riding it. And then the last two, we have change color. That allows you to select a different color for your route line other than red, like blue or yellow, for example, if you have a preference. And view queue sheet just allows you to preview the full queue sheet for the route that you have here. So again, lastly, this route looks great. I love it. I want to save it. I'm going to tap where it says done in the lower right. Then I'm going to tap where it says save. If you tap navigate, that would load the route into your navigation screen, but it wouldn't actually save it to your route library. I like saving my stuff for later, so I'm going to tap save. And it'll have you give it a title. I will call this Cool Test Route. And then once I hit save, that is officially added to my route library, so I can navigate it later on whenever I want. So again, this is a really quick overview of sort of how the Ride with GPS app works and all of the different things that you can do with it. I do have a lot of information that I'd like to send along in tandem with these group webinars. So chances are, if you're seeing this video, there's that email heading to your inbox relatively soon, and you are always welcome to follow up with me with any questions you might have. Feel free to email me at Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, @ridewithgps.com, and I'll be happy to help. Thanks.